What's going on, guys? I have some news before we start this video. I've been working on updating my Media Monopoly website to a more modern design. Because of that, I'm going to be doing a 25% off clearance sale on my current website. A lot of the older products from 2017, 2018 are going to be removed just to clean up the shelf a little bit and to make way for a lot of the newer things that I plan on putting on the site. So this is your last chance to get your hands on those if you are interested. Again, 25% off for the next 48 hours. Link will be down in the description. And yeah, that's about it. So let's get right into the video. Today, I'm going to show you how we can create this modern Disney Pixar style. I absolutely love this look, and it doesn't require as much tweaking as the full-on photorealistic characters that we made in the past. So again, enough talk. Let's get into it. If you enjoy, slap a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I always appreciate it. Let's hop in and get started. All right, guys, so before we get started within Blender customizing, we need to first talk about our Basemesh. Now, I'm going to recommend you guys, if you are a beginner, you download some free Basemesh or maybe a cheap Basemesh. I really like this one here, Toon Heroes for Genesis 9, $15. Now, should you learn how to model from scratch? Of course you should, but in my opinion, for beginners, it's super overwhelming starting from the ground up, starting from a sphere and turning that into the shape of a human being. Again, it's a great skill to learn, but if you're new, start easy with something like this. So for this, we're going to use Daz 3D. This is a free 3D software. If you guys are making 3D characters, you've heard me talk about this. Again, I'm going to be using the Toon Heroes for this workflow. There's a ton of free base meshes you can also search for on Google, so find whatever works best for you. We're going to go over to Smart Content, we're going to go over to Figures, and we're going to bring in the Toon Heroes. And again, you should have already downloaded this using the Daz install manager. So yeah, it'll prompt you to install this once you install Daz. You can install your content here. Once you've done that, we go to Figures, and let's bring in a male figure. All right, so a great start to work from. You can do a lot of your cosmetics from here. Of course, we're going to customize this a bunch in Blender to actually shape this into the look of the person we want. From Daz, you have all these different sliders you can use to tweak this. Maybe you don't want it so bug-eyed. You can kind of dial it down there. Let's go over to materials. And you see we have some nice little preset things here, skin colors, things like that. If you have any wardrobe items, you can, of course, come back to products here. Slap any of these on. So I'll give them some of the Genesis 8 starter essentials just to give them some clothes. This is originally made for Genesis 8 male. I think this is Genesis 9. Yeah, we'll give them some clothing here. So yeah, that looks fine to me. I'm going to go ahead and select my character, and we're going to bring this into Blender. Again, don't worry, you don't have to go overboard and spend a bunch of stuff and get all the cosmetics done here. You can do all of that within Blender. You can create your own clothes from scratch. It all depends on the time you want to spend versus the money you want to spend. I'm going to go send to Blender, Daz to Blender Bridge. Again, you could install this from the Daz Central software here. Go ahead and accept this. All right, so let's switch back over to Blender. And once you install the Daz to Blender from Daz Central here, it's going to prompt you to install the Daz to Blender Blender plugin. Extremely easy. All you have to do is click import, and we're ready to go. Fully rigged character. Again, that's why I recommend this sort of workflow for beginners, because it does take time. It does take a lot of skill set and knowledge to be able to fully model, fully rig from scratch. I'm trying to make this video for everybody, and I'm trying to expose this world of 3D to people who may be intimidated to start. So let's check it out here. We have some obvious issues. Our hat is made out of glass for some reason. I think this is like the eye moisture. So to fix these eyes, let's go ahead and click on the eyes. We're going to go over to the Blender materials here. And you can see we have some different textures that are loaded in. We have our eye moisture, and then we have the actual eye maps left and right. Let's select eye left, and we're going to switch over here. If we expand our timeline, change the workspace over to the shader editor. So this is what the Daz to Blender Bridge does. It kind of sets up this Daz eye ray skin shader, and it cleans it all up and converts it to your Blender shaders. So this is going to be the map for the eyes. You see color green. Just make sure that this is loaded in. Now we still have an issue here because if I remove this, we don't have the texture properly mapped onto the eye. So let's do that now. We'll select eye left. We're going to tab into edit mode. Let's click the eye and click Control L just to only select that eyeball. And we're going to do a UV map. So essentially we're just pasting the image map onto this area. So switch over to the UV editor. And now we just need to find our eye texture. So we'll click here. I'll just type in the word eye, and here you go, green eyes, just like that. And then we're going to scroll down to the settings, and we're going to change the blend mode to alpha blend. We can come over here to the cutout opacity, And you can just lower these to get a good balance of the eye moisture over top of the actual eye. So let's line this up a bit better. Tab to go into edit mode. Again, Control L. You want this map to line up properly. Everything's already UV unwrapped for you, so it's pretty easy. Just aligning like that. And let's do the same for the other eye. The eye moisture right first. We're going to use the same settings. We're going to change the blend mode to alpha blend. We're going to take the cutoff opacity here and just lower that. And you can also take the diffuse opacity here and lower that as well. So that way we're still getting those nice reflections in the eyes. And again, if for any reason the pupil on the right eye here is not aligned properly, tab in edit mode, Control L, and then you just select here in the UV mapping, click G, and you can move this so it's properly aligned. All right, so that looks good. Now for the hat here, to fix that, it's essentially an alpha issue, just like we had with the eye moisture over top of the eyes. So select the hat. We're going to come down to material properties, just scroll down to settings for each of these here, and then just change the blend mode to opaque. And we're going to do that for all the materials on the hat model. You can also change the glossiness in your shader editor whenever you select this. So we'll go to the front. See, there's this glossy value. If you don't want any of it, just bump that up and it should remove it. All right, so we've cleaned up the conversion. Now we can get into customizing this to make it look like any specific person that we actually want. And before we do that, last thing I see here, the eyebrows don't really have a good texture. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove this eye ray texture and we'll create a new one from scratch here, just a normal Principled BSDF. And we'll make it like dark brown. All right, so I'm gonna hide the armature so that's not distracting. I'm also going to hide the hat. So that is a child of the armature. So just click this open, hide that. Let's focus on the face. Now the key here is your face shape and making that match up with the person who you'd like to replicate. Now the great thing about this sort of style, since it's so cartoony, you don't have to get things exactly the same. If you can match striking features and basic bone shape, every character for the most part is going to have these cartoony eyes. So don't worry about making this picture perfect. Again, we're not going for photorealism here. We're going for a stylized Pixar version of somebody. So I always recommend using Pure Ref. It's another free software. Again, link will be down below. You essentially just drop images into this little box and you can use that as a pastable reference in your workspace here to help you whenever you're tweaking and sculpting the facial structure of this to make it look more like your subject matter. So I can bring in a photo of myself here. I even have a side photo just to give myself a nice little reference. And then I can right click, go to mode and overlay selection. Put this down here for now. From here to actually change the shape of this model, we're going to change over to sculpting mode. So we'll select, I'm going to click up in the top left here and go to sculpt mode. And we'll shrink this one for now. Here's all your sculpting tools on the left. Main ones you're going to be using here are the grab tool. You can see if I grab and drag, extremely easy. So let's just start with that for now. I'm going to click my bracket keys to make this a bit larger. You also have your radius and strength here. It's a good idea here to turn on the symmetry. So you'll see next to this little butterfly, you can check on for X, Y, or Z axis. That way, anything you do will be mimicked on the other side. And I'm just going to sort of eye it. So another thing you can do here, if you want to get super proportional, you can line up your reference image with the actual model and you can hold down Control-Alt-Shift. And then if you just click and drag up, you can change the opacity. Again, if you want to really get proportional and try and match things as best as possible, you could do that. I think it's a bit overkill for, again, this stylistic cartoony version. I think what's more important is the small details. So if I go in here and I start to sculpt around the eyes, you're going to notice things just start to get really wonky. And that's because these are basically individual parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the eyelashes with the actual base model. So let's go back to object mode. And over here, we're going to find eyelashes shape. We're going to hold down Control and select the Genesis normal shape, the entire body, and then just click Control J. So now whenever I go back into my sculpting mode, you can see once I sculpt, the eyelashes are going to move with it. You don't want to do it with the eyes because it's going to distort the shape of the eyes. What we can do is just sort of move the eyeballs actually back a little bit and just fit them if there are any tearing issues like that. So again, to fix this issue, back to object mode, we're going to grab the eye shape. And you're seeing everything here by default is locked. If you go all the way up, just scroll on these tabs or click the little arrow to expand this transform option. All of these are locked by default. So you just need to unlock them for the eye shape, and then you can click G, and then I'll click Y just to move that back on the Y axis. All right, and again, I mentioned it earlier, but I think the real thing that goes a long way when it comes to stylizing somebody is these small details. So it's not things like perfectly matching proportions. It's things like the arch of the eyebrows or the small details in the face that can really replicate that likeness and give that striking recognition. So let's go over to the eyelashes here, or the eyebrows, sorry, and we'll sculpt that. Again, using our symmetry here. And if you want, you can even turn off the symmetry here just because a lot of eyebrows aren't perfectly symmetrical. All right, so I think that's good for now in terms of the shaping. Let's go in here and start adding some more facial features like hair. So what I'm gonna do is click Tab to go into edit mode. And I'm gonna go ahead and just select, using the select circle, the area over here where the beard will be. And we can fine tune this all later. Just get a general selection. Maybe even go into face select might be a bit easier. All right, so something like that. We just need a general area for where we can add in these particles. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go over to this green triangle, object data properties, and we're gonna set up a new vertex group. So let's click new. We're gonna name this beard, and we're gonna click assign to the selection that we just created. So now what we can do, we can go to object, quick effects, and we're gonna add in quick fur. And we only want this to be where the beard is. We're gonna go over to the particle system, and here's the particles that we created. We're gonna go over to vertex groups, and under density here, we want to find beard. And there's a lot in here, so I'm just gonna type it in. There we go. All right, so now we have the particles only coming out of the beard. So now we really just need to shape this the way we want. So first of all, we don't need them this long. So maybe do like 0.1 if you want stubble, or 0.2, that's fine. And then what you can do, I kind of like how it sticks out like this, but if you really want to groom it, you can go over to the particle edit. And from here, you can comb, you can cut, you can do essentially anything. There you go. All right, so now to change the color. And I should mention, once you do all the combing and cutting and things like that, you're not going to be able to change this. So make sure that's locked in before, or you'll have to delete the edit and then you can change from there. Either way, to apply a material to this, you'll see here under render, under the render tab in your physics, it's going to say material, fur material. Let's go ahead and just create a new material, and we'll name this beard, and we'll make it brown. And then back in our physics tab, beard. There you go. So pretty easy. And again, that is the basics of this. Of course, you can go into all the ins and outs of shaping this the way you want by changing the sliders. The children setting here can really give you a good amount of control. And also a big one here, you'll see display amount. This is what you see in the viewport display, but this is what's actually going to be rendered. So if I click render, it's going to look like this and not like this. So you need to make sure your render amount is matching your viewport, your display amount here. And yeah, I think that looks fine. So now let's do the same with actual hair. Select, tab into edit mode. This time we're going to select the hair. All right, there we go. And again, the selection does not have to be perfect because we can trim the particles later, but we're going to do the same thing. So vertex groups, new, I'm going to call this scalp, and assign. Now we can go to object, quick effects, quick fur, and then again under our particle systems here, our particle settings, we want to go down to vertex groups and go scalp. All right, so let's do the same here. Maybe bump up the count, and again, don't go overboard with that depending on your PC. I'm gonna put it up to 5,000. And then we'll particle edit, and we'll start combing this. Yeah, something like that. You know, this is still a little messy, but it's starting to look all right. Again, let's go over to render here, and let's change around Same material as the beard. In fact, while we're here, let's actually mess with this material. We don't need this much specular. We want some more roughness because we don't need that shiny reflection. I'll mess around with this section here, children, clumping, roughness. This is where you can change around the shape a lot easier. All right, so that works fine for me. I'm gonna go ahead and bring back the hat, and then we can delete the hair that's coming through the hat. So again, particle edit mode, you can use the cut tool. And alternatively to that, you can also go into the particle settings here, and under children, just lower down the length. All right, so some more customization tips. If you guys want to add a graphic or a logo to any part of the clothing, you can go to the shader editor and open up the image texture and then just copy that file location. I'm going to open up Photoshop. Of course, you can use any other free picture editing software to do the same. I'll click File, Open, and I'll paste in the location of that hat map. And then I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste this YouTube logo onto the hat texture. So we'll go ahead and save that. And then back in the shader editor, we can reload in the custom map. And just like the eyes, if you want to align this better, you guys can do a UV unwrap. So just open up the custom map in the UV editor, tab into edit mode, and just select the faces on the hat where you'd like to put the logo. You can select this, click G and S to scale and fit the graphic onto your clothing. Also, side note here, everything is rigged from the DAZ to Blender bridge. So if you guys wanted to do any facial animation, you guys can set up shape keys and things like that. I'll leave some tutorials down below if you're interested. And later on in this tutorial, we'll talk more about adding some animation to this character. So some more little clothing tricks here. If you want to change the color of anything, you can go to your shader editor. I'll go over to the shirt here, and I'm going to add in a little hue saturation value and just place it between the image map and the actual iray shader, and then you can change your hue and saturation here. So a quick little fix, you don't have to rely on Photoshop for every little tweak of the clothing. And then again, paying attention to the small details, you guys can change any of the skin maps. So I'll click on my face here. I'll again find that diffuse image texture and just save that location. I'll open it up into Photoshop, and you guys can put in any blemishes or distinct features on the face onto the map and do the same exact thing we did with the hat. Just load that back in, and there you guys go. You can see we have that custom map loaded on. This also works the same with tattoos. So if you want to add tattoos on the arms or whatever, open up the torso map and just use Photoshop to blend some tattoos on. All right, so now for our final tip, we're going to talk about how we can add in some basic little idle animations, and we're going to use Mixamo for that. And to use this Mixamo method, we actually want to delete the armature that's created from DAZ. So we'll delete that, and we can set up a custom armature easily within Mixamo. So I'm going to shift select all the different parts of my character, and then I'll go File, Export, and export out in FBX. We can go to mixamo.com, and this is owned by Adobe. So if you have the Creative Cloud, you can just log in with your Adobe login. Let's go ahead and click Upload and upload that FBX. So once your character is in here, go ahead and place the wrist, chin, groin, etc., and it's going to generate a Mixamo rig for this character. Then you can select from this library and choose any animation you want for the character. So I'm just going to go for one of these idle standing animations. So we'll download this character and we'll bring it back into Blender. And you'll see here none of our textures were transferred. A lot of people freak out at this. It's extremely easy. Just click on the different parts of the character, go to the materials, and then just click the drop down and load in the correct material. It should all be mapped the same. Now, the only difference is the hair particles. Since those are particle systems, we can also copy and paste those from our static character to our animated character. The only difference is we actually need to set up the vertex groups. So tab into edit mode on your animated character. Again, for the beard, select the faces where the beard would be. Go to your vertex groups, create a new one like we did earlier in the tutorial, and then assign it. And then we can just go and create a new particle system, and then click the drop down in that particle system to set it to the particle settings we already did earlier. So that way you don't have to go through all your settings again for the hair, etc. You just need to set up those vertex groups. So we'll do that again with the hair. Just select the head, assign that vertex group, and then put in your particle system and just click the drop down for the one you already did earlier. And that's really about it, guys. Super fun workflow. From here, you can really do anything you want with this. Go watch any of my other tutorials if you want to see how to bring this into After Effects or how to combine different animation methods. methods or whatever. I really just am focusing on the stylization of the character in this one. But if you're looking for more info to do a specific thing, again, feel free to browse through my channel. To finish this all up, I just added in a basic little 3-point lighting setup and then dropped this cyclorama behind him with a red texture just to give him a background. Pretty fun animation. I love the cartoony styles and I love all the different things you can do with 3D characters. Let me know in the comments down below if there's anything else you'd like to see for this series. We have a bunch of how to turn anyone into this type videos. I love making them, so I assume a lot of you guys enjoy these type of videos as well. So if you have any fun ideas, of course, let me know down below. Other than that, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting, and I'll see you guys in the next one.